All right, guys. So people are mad about the Severus Snape casting again. I don't really. I think they. I think there was like another report that came out that kind of confirmed that they were going to race swap the character, and so there's like this new wave of backlash. So I am curious to see if there's anything new to talk about, or if it's like essentially the same backlash of like race swap bad woke. Blah. Anyways, we'll see what Nerdrotic has to say. I don't like. I feel like I've been doing a lot of these like politically charged videos, but there's like not a ton of news to cover, so it is what it is. I don't make the news. I just talk about it. Why? Bro, why can't people be normal? Like, can we go back? Can we go back to when they just made Kingpin black and nobody gave a shit? Can we go back to when they did race swaps and it just like wasn't that big of a deal? Granted, I was 3 when this movie came out. Maybe these retards have always existed, but like, I'm actually like so over being like gaslit into thinking that this is some like new phenomena, that now it's like the woke people have taken over and they're changing the art and media that you love, and now it's woke, but like before like 2016 media was normal, and now all these race swaps, when it's like the reality is that you retards are the ones that have changed and have gotten more sensitive. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody likes Michael Clark Duncan, or whatever his name is, as Kingpin. And now, before we've even seen the show, there's weird backlash against the guy that they got to play Severus Snape. Like, I really do just want to emphasize that there's nothing necessarily wrong with race swapping characters. You're the one that has gotten weirdly political about it. It's you. You are the one that has been politically, culture war, brain rotted. Okay? I just want to be clear about that. I just want to be clear. I want to be crystal. Like what the fuck is this that I'm about to watch?
There's a wand with a silencer on it. Why? By asking here. Why? Dime bag of pixie dust. Contraband. Wizard pepper. Unbelievable. Now knock it off! All the stupid ass, grab ass, and touch your feeling bull. I told you it was rotten.
Nerdrotic.com.
Reading to over 1 million filthy muggles and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, an argument can be made that the last beloved intellectual property left standing that hasn't been vandalized beyond all recognition is Harry Potter. And despite the setbacks for me anyway, of the god-awful stage play that nobody really counts as canon and the diminishing returns of the Wizarding World movie series that largely had to do with recasting Johnny Depp and it not being centered in Hogwarts, the brand has not only survived, it's thrived. And it's done that through J.K. Rowling's supposed controversial...
Wait, what? He's like, besides the major movie franchise that kind of failed and sputtered out, and the stage production, besides like the 2 main things that have come out since the movies, besides that, the franchise has thrived. It's like the only big thing was Hogwarts Legacy, which he didn't even mention. I don't know. It's not even relevant to the current topic, but that's just kind of hilarious.
but yet common sense statements on one single issue that I happen to agree with. Multiple versions of her books are selling like crazy. There's a best-selling video game out there, and everyone loves Universal's Wizarding World. And unlike Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, it's successful because of its attention to detail and its respect for the lore. That's why a lot of fans were cautiously optimistic when they heard that HBO was going to be doing a series that Casey Bloys says is going to be a faithful adaptation of J.K. Rowling's novels that will dive deep into each of the iconic books. And I said at the time, this has the potential to be the biggest series in the world by far if it is indeed adapted faithfully, and it all depends on the casting. Well, so much for the Harry Potter show. Because Snape is black, and the only question I have at this point is, are we still doing this?
No more questions. Don't ask any more questions.
Now, this rumor floated around about 3...
I'm asking this, but I'm asking this about people obsessed with like race. When it comes to casting a character, like, I mean, I've repeated this so much, but I mean, I guess I have to repeat it every time. If there's a character and his race or her race is like relevant to how that character services the plot and the role that they play, then you probably shouldn't race swap. Example: Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. The entire point of that character is that he is the only white lawyer in his town that is willing to represent a black man. If you were to remake To Kill a Mockingbird, you kind of got to keep that character white. You know, can't really race swap that character. However, if you wanted to make like a, I don't know, a Blade movie, you could probably like make Blade Asian or white, I think, right? To be fair, I haven't actually watched any of the Blade movies or read any of the comics. Maybe race is super integral to his stories, but I'm just assuming he's a guy that kills vampires. You know, kind of how they made like Nick Fury. He was originally white. Then they really they just liked Samuel L. Jackson's vibes, so they cast Samuel L. Jackson and they sort of molded the character after him in the comic books. So it's just like you can. There's nothing wrong with this. We used to not care about this thing. This type of thing. Like, bro, I was reading about this. Apparently they made Catwoman black in like the 1960s. Like the Adam West TV show. And this isn't even like it's not even like they did a reboot, so they then race swapped her. Apparently, and I could be wrong about this specific point, but apparently the original actress in this show was white, and within the same canon they just like race swapped her because they wanted to cast this lady. So it's just like, bro, like, I granted, again, I wasn't alive back then. Maybe maybe there was a lot of backlash. Maybe, I don't know, what were they doing in the 1960s? Maybe all the fans sent like carrier pigeons to the Warner Brothers offices with angry messages written in scrolls. I don't know. But it's like, this used to not be that big of a deal. And I'm just so sick of these people like gaslighting us into thinking that this is like race swapping Severus Snape or whatever is necessarily that big of a deal. Now wait, did I mention this at the beginning of the video? Okay, hold on. I have actually not watched all of the Harry Potter movies. I've really only watched like the first one and some of the second one because annoying British children annoyed me. But no, I'll get back to it at some point. But so I don't know. Maybe Severus Snape, his whiteness actually does play an important role in the story. If so, let me know. But I remember I watched another video about the topic that never was brought up. Maybe Nerdrotic will bring this up. Let's see.
Months ago, and at the time, everybody was collectively hoping it wasn't true, but it looks like it is. Harry Potter, Janet McTeer in negotiations to play McGonagall, have no problem with that casting. Papa Essianu, near deal to play Snape in HBO series. I have to say, the resemblance is uncanny. Forgive me for stating the obvious, but Snape is white. Best part of this is there's going to be people, particularly on Reddit, who say, I'm racist for calling this out because I'm white, so it looks like we're still doing this. Again, I have no problem with the Janet McTeer casting as McGonagall because she looks like McGonagall. I have a problem with the Papa Essianu casting as Snape because he doesn't look like Snape. I know full well J.K. Rowling signed off on this decision, and as far as that faithful adaptation is concerned,
This is a lie.
and it appears that gaslighting casting is still on the menu, boys. You can say you're taking the DEI out of your industry, but it appears you can't take your industry out of the DEI. Now, if anyone is under the illusion or delusion that this casting was based on merit,
Well, let's see. Do we know? Does he have evidence that it's based on merit? Let's see.
This is from the article. With the HBO series, the Harry Potter franchise continues to build a more inclusive and racially diverse universe, an effort that started with the casting of Black Hermione in that awful stage play. It is something another popular fantasy franchise, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Prime, also embarked on when transitioning, that's a really good description, to the small screen with the Amazon series. First off, there's better examples of race swaps that have actually worked that we'll get to, but bringing up the Rims of Power is the worst argument you can make. It's the biggest, most expensive flop of all.
Okay, so wait, how is he going to rationalize this exactly? Like, how is he going to rationalize that there have been other race swaps that worked, but this one is not going to work even though we haven't seen it yet? What exactly is the argument that he's about to make? I'm actually kind of curious. Let's see.
Of all time, and the fact that they continue making it just proves there's a bunch of idiots in charge of a lot of money in Hollywood. It's also the single best example of casting based on identity over authenticity, which was a giant red flag for every
Well, to be clear, I think they paid like more than $1 billion for the Lord of the Rings rights. By the way, how do the Lord of the Rings rights work? How is it possible but that both Warner Brothers and Amazon and I think some other company, I think there's like another company that makes like video games and stuff, that they also own some of the rights to the Lord of the Rings? I believe there are 3 major companies that own rights to the Lord of the Rings, and they're all somehow able to make Lord of the Rings movies and games and whatever. How is it that the Tolkien estate has been able to triple dip in this manner? That's actually so fascinating to me. But considering how much money they paid for the Lord of the Rings, literally 0 people could be watching this show. They're going to keep making this show regardless of how well it does, just because they can't like have paid that much money for nothing.
Tolkien fan out there showing them how much Amazon was going to respect the lore, which was not at all. And it looks like it's not going to be any different here. And as far as Harry...
Isn't they? I thought the second season was better. I don't know. I don't give a shit about Lord of the Rings. I thought the first season was fine. I started watching the second season, and then I was just like, you know what? It might also be possible that, like, I just don't care about, like, fantasy shit. Like, oh, I am an elf, and I have a wand. I'm gonna go fly on a big pigeon bird thing. What are the Gryffindor? I'm a hobbit. I live in a hole. Whoa. I might just hate that inherently as a concept. No, it's probably just not a great show. But I thought Lord of the Rings fans liked the second season more. But I'm not too sure about that.
Harry Potter not being inclusive or racially diverse, that couldn't be further from the truth. Dean Thomas, Lee Jordan, the Patil twins, Cho Chang, and a character who I think Papa Asiato would be perfect for, Kingsley Shacklebolt. He would have an expanded role, and he eventually becomes Minister of Magic. But since this isn't our first rodeo, let's just cut the BS here. We all know why Papa Asiato, who I've got nothing personally against, was cast. It was, again, based on identity over authenticity. It's the same old, same old.
I mean, it's just like, if he's a talented character and they wanted to make the show more diverse. Well, okay, so let me actually ground out my perspective on this. If the artists, right, which would be the writers and the showrunners and I guess J.K. Rowling herself, I'm sure she's creatively involved in this. If they just earnestly want to make the show more diverse, I guess I don't really have a problem with that. And then as long as they then cast like a really talented black actor, which by all accounts, whatever this Papa Asiato is, guy hopefully is, then I don't have a problem with that. What I would have a problem with is if the creative team was like making their show and then David Zaslav or whatever like kicks in the door and he's like, guys, I'm sorry, George Soros and the Jewish cabal, they said we gotta add a black guy in it because of DEI policies or whatever. So, you cast this white guy for the role. Sorry, he's getting kicked out. So sorry, creative team. I'm just gonna supersede whatever the fuck you're doing, and you're putting in a black guy. If it's a situation like that, well, now you're interfering with the creative process, and at that point, I would have a problem with it. But if it's not something that's coming from like corporate, and it is just coming from like J.K. Rowling and the showrunners and the writing team, just like genuinely wanting to maybe have the show reflect more of like a modern day sort of situation and make it a little more diverse. I mean, I just personally don't care that much. And again, like, most people don't care about race swaps, or people used to not care about race swaps, because it's also entirely possible that maybe he just gave the best audition. I don't know, because I'm actually kind of curious. Let me go back. Let me actually look up that article. Was it by Deadline? Let's actually see the way this was worded. I'm actually kind of curious. Okay, so like when I read this article, it doesn't seem like Deadline is saying that this is an active effort for this show. It seems like they're just noticing that, you know, Harry Potter stuff is you know, becoming more racially inclusive, because apparently they did a race swap for Hermione in the Broadway play, and now they're noticing that they're race swapping Snape in this show. So I don't even know if it's like an effort by what's her name again? J.K. Rowling herself to diversify the thing. So again, it's also possible that they just thought that this guy, okay, they don't have a picture of him here. It's possible that they just thought that the Papa Asiato, whatever his name is, gave the best audition. That's also a possibility. So, like, when it comes to this whole thing, it's like, again, are there situations where race swaps, I think, could be bad? Yes, if it's not coming from, like, the creative team and with their earnest artistic and creative intent. Like, if it is just some executive that's interfering with it just for the sake of, you know, whatever corporate bullshit reasons, that's bad. But, like, the reality is that we never really know if that's the case or not. Like, this is like not a thing that we can know. So there's no real point, in my opinion, in getting upset about it. Just wait and see if the show is good. And if the show is good, then great. If it's bad, then we criticize it for being bad. But this like performative sensationalism over race swaps is just so stupid.
Well, going back to the Ghostbusters 2016 marketing technique, this is equivalent to releasing a disco movie in 1987. Controversy creates trends. Trends get more eyes across social media on your TV show because there's no such thing as bad press. Except that's not entirely true, because if it were, The Acolyte would have been the biggest show of all time and gotten multiple seasons. And the data is in. Tell me, how has this philosophy worked out for Disney, Star Wars, Star Trek, the MCU, the Rings of Power, Doctor Who, Star Trek, hell, Hollywood? So the next phase of this will take us into very familiar territory. The parsing words, playing semantics, moving goalposts.
The reality is that like franchises, if they lower in quality, people start losing interest, and then if they make good things, then people start gaining interest. I don't think that like diversity or whatever is inherently bad. I don't think people are inherently turned off by it. I think people just want to watch good movies and good TV shows. Good TV shows can happen if something is race swapped. Good TV shows can happen good TV shows and movies can happen if somebody is race swapped. A good TV show and movies can happen if there's progressive politics injected into it. It's just so funny that like you have like a super progressive movie or whatever, like Barbie makes $1 billion, and it's like, no, that one doesn't count because of reasons and stuff and things. But then like, I don't know, some movie that's actually like relatively apolitical, like Acolyte, or sorry, I'm using movie and TV show interchangeably. You have something that's actually like relatively apolitical in The Acolyte. Like, and actually I've asked this before. I've never had somebody give me like a good answer. Can somebody tell me what the politics of The Acolyte are exactly? Like, what are the politics of The Acolyte? That's a show that isn't really political in nature. It doesn't actually have, like, super strong political messaging, really. There are no race swaps. Unless you think that diversity, I guess, is political inherently. But then that's used as an argument as to in this video about race swaps. But yeah, like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, something is deemed that's like woke. But even though it's not really woke, it doesn't actually have progressive politics, but it just has diversity or something. Now that's used as like a figurehead for why race swaps are bad. Like, none of this makes any sense. They're just like double standards everywhere. It's all just retardation.
Gymnastics revisionist history portion of this controversy. Now, we saw this a lot with the Rings of Power, and again, it's going to be no different here. There's the good old, this character was not described as specifically white in the books. I mean, aside from the fact that it actually does, but coincidence.
Just to be clear, I don't care how it was described in the books. That's I could not give less of a shit if something is like accurate to the source material. Like, it's just like you know, I've been talking about this recently, but with the whole Snow White movie, it's so stupid that like literally the basis of the original Disney animated movies are taking old like fairy tales or whatever. I believe they were like published books, right? Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I think that was like a published book. I don't know exactly how that works, but either way, Walt Disney took the Snow White fairy tale, changed shit in order to fit his artistic vision, and then made the Disney movie. And then now people get mad because people take the original Disney movie, change stuff in order to fit their artistic visions, in order to make their own movie. It's like, I hate how just like autistic modern audiences are about like, that is not accurate to the source material. If you make this change, then you are disrespecting J.K. Rowling. If you make this change, then that's the equivalent of breaking into J.K. Rowling's home and eating all of her cookies. You are disrespecting J.K. Rowling and the original source material. It's like, no, you dumb motherfucker, it's just art. That's what art is. You take things and you adapt them and you change them and you make it your own. That's what art is. That's what art has always been. Gosh, you people are so annoying. It's just like, I hate this mentality. It's like the show isn't even made yet. The show isn't even out yet and you're just mad about race swaps. When that's been a thing for like all of TV history. Like, why can't we just let artists make art and then we judge the art? It's just, I don't know. Like, this is just so mind-numbingly stupid.
Incidentally enough, my good friend Ryan decided to respond to Ryan. Now both of us have read the book.
Let's see, what did this guy say? This is the exact description of Snape from the book. He has greasy black hair, a hook nose, and sallow skin. None of that points to a specific race of a person. And then Ryan Kindle says, I've actually read all of the books, unlike you, so I'll help you out. Snape is described several times as pale, multiple times as having pallid and sallow skin, once as the color of sour milk. Well, how sour is the milk? Maybe it's black. and since even that isn't enough, it's described quite literally as marble white during his last confrontation with Voldemort in Deathly Hallows. Hope that helps, you retarded. Fuck. I mean, listen, maybe this guy is wrong, but it's like, again, just to be clear, I do not give even a single shit if he's white in the books. I do not care. Not one iota of me cares.
Books a lot, and I found Ryan's reply to Ryan to be quite succinct and eloquent, but allow me to expand on it a bit. Because as Ryan Kindle correctly points out, Snape is described multiple times in the book, something you would know if you had read him. Here's just a few examples.
Snape's sallow skin had got the colour of sour milk. I am, said Snape. He looked slightly paler than usual, and his cold black eyes glittered strangely.
Snape looked paler than usual, and angrier. He closed his eyes, and suddenly he was Voldemort, looking into Snape's pale face.
And Snape's face was like a death mask. It was marble white.
And let's not forget the sketch of Snape, illustrated by J.K. Rowling, where she says, and I quote, Snape, as I always saw him. Then there's going to be the whataboutisms comparing the race swap of Snape to other race swaps in other completely unrelated stories without considering context, variables, or nuance, which admittedly is the internet. Now, just going up.
What is the context and what is the nuance? Let's go, baby.
The top of my head, one that I was skeptical about that actually worked was Corlys Velaryon in House of the Dragon, and while he is important to the story, Corlys is no Snape. There's Jeffrey Wright in The Batman. He didn't do a disservice to the Commissioner Gordon character, but that movie did make 30% less than The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises and $100 million less than Batman vs Superman. Lawrence Fish.
Are you implying that it's because of race swaps? It's like, is he implying that people didn't watch The Batman because of Jeffrey Wright's casting? It's like so funny, right? Like, it couldn't possibly be because the DC franchise is like literally in the toilet. And so the Batman wasn't necessarily like yet another Batman reboot wasn't necessarily going to like blow the doors off the box office. Like especially like the first movie in like a new franchise while the DCEU is currently running. While the comic book genre is like already kind of like being run into the ground a bit. Oh no, let's not add that context. Let's not add any of that context. Let's only add the context of the fact that they did a race swap, I guess. By the way, if people actually cared about race swaps, okay, hold on. I genuinely have no idea how ethnic relations work. Was Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman technically not a race swap because Gal Gadot is Israeli? Like, wouldn't that make her Middle Eastern? Are Greeks Middle Eastern? Bro, I have no idea. Anyways, that's just the thing I'm throwing out there. If anybody actually cares about this shit. Which, again, I don't think they do. But, like, that's, like, such a ridiculous thing to do. Oh, wait, is he also pointing out that Lawrence Fishburne was race swapped? Wait. Hold on, because he plays Perry White. Wait, so he's just gonna, like, casually throw in there that Jeffrey Dean Morgan? Jeffrey Wright plays a black Commissioner Gordon, and he's gonna be like, well, actually, that made some less money than Batman v Superman. And he's gonna, like, imply that it's because of a race swap? Hold on, let me let him make his full argument.
He didn't do a disservice to the Commissioner Gordon character, but that movie did make 30% less than The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises and $100 million less than Batman vs Superman. Lawrence Fishburne was a good Perry White. The late great Michael Clark Duncan played a very passable version of the Kingpin in Daredevil, but we all know why Vincent D'Onofrio's version was better in the Netflix show, because he looks and acts more like the character from the comics. Everybody loves.
No. What? Like, that's not even true. Wait, that's not even true. Like, Kingpin in the Netflix show isn't even, like, a big super-powered freak. That was, like, one of the weird things that people felt when they actually brought him in Hawkeye, and he seemingly had, like, super strength. And, like, some amount of invulnerability, because he because he was like surviving an explosion from from Kate Bishop's like explosive arrows. What? He's not even like the comics. And no, I don't think anybody went, oh yes, white. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. White, yes. Yes. Nobody cared. I don't think anybody cared about that. I think that he just gave like a fantastic performance in the Netflix series. Like, it was just like a fantastically written character. It was a fantastic performance. Like, that Daredevil show was just overall really great. Like, I don't think anybody was like, oh, yes, no more melanin. Oh, man, man, that other Kingpin, he was pretty good, but just too much melanin. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Because, yeah, like, that doesn't make any sense. How are you going to say that it's a portrayal that's accurate to the comics, and that's why people liked it, even though he didn't have super strength? Like, just to be clear, the Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin could not fight Spider-Man. Like, what are we even talking about?
Of Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, something that was established in the comics many years ago, until they decided to have his eye gouged out by a kitty cat and completely destroy him in Secret Invasion by having him marry a Skrull to be a transmission allegory.
It's like so weird. It's like they're like, okay, yes, the race swap of Samuel L. Jackson was fine because they already race swapped him before. What? Well, hold on. Can you justify the original race swap? What? Why would a race swap? Why is a race swap in the comic book medium different from the film medium? And then he even goes on to describe that the race swap was fine, actually, but then the writing was bad. So how is this any different from the Papa whatever guy, Esiadu's character, when we haven't seen how it's executed yet? What are any of these arguments? All of these arguments are like actual like dog shit on fire. None of this makes any sense. None of it is coherent. It's literally just people like grasping at straws because they want to be mad at this, because they want to be sensationalist in the way they react to news. They want controversy. They want to talk about how woke it is, about DEI and blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's all. Like you're not actually mad at this casting, okay? You're not. You're not actually mad at this casting. You want to be mad about something, and you want to be mad at like progressive politics, and you want to call things woke. And so that's why you're going to be performatively, sensationalistly upset at a casting for a performance that you haven't even seen yet. Like, can we just stop with the bullshit? That's all this is. That is all this is.
Yet all of those are better examples than the Rings of Power. I think the closest comparison you can make as far as this not working to this situation on a much lower level is the race swapping of Death in Sandman. And what happened? It barely eked out a second season that, despite the author's trouble, was going to get canceled anyway. And did that
Does any of that have anything to do with the race swapping? Again, like, I'm just where like is he genuinely saying that like people were watching the Sandman and they were going like, hell yeah, this is really good. Black. Not watching anymore. And then the ratings suffered in the episode where she's introduced. Is this seriously what this guy is positing? What the fuck?
is the race swapping of Death in Sandman. And what happened? It barely eked out a second season that, despite the author's trouble, was going to get canceled anyway. And did that casting in some way play a part in that show not being received as well as Netflix wanted it to be? Absolutely yes. Will the casting of a Black Snape affect the enthusiasm?
What? Like, let's say that was part of the reason why people didn't like that show. I don't know. I didn't even know that character was white. I'm not gonna lie. Let's say that was part of the reason. That's a stupid reason not to like a show. Like, what? Like, if a character, and that doesn't really have anything to do with race, is like essentially the same exact character, and you would prefer it because it was played by a white person, even though it's like the same show, it's the same character, same writing, same quality of performance, you're a weird person. You are weird. You're weird. You're weird.
Potential ratings over the long term, potential earnings and potential merchandise sales. Absolutely yes, because I can promise you, just like with the Sandman fans, except with the Harry Potter fandom, it's orders of magnitude larger. The vast majority are not going to be down with this, whether they want to admit it or not. To sum it up, you can bring up all the whataboutisms in the world, but just talking dollars and cents, this is an absolutely stupid business decision. You could have race swapped a lot of other characters, but not Snape. So let me get this straight. Harry Potter, one of the best-selling book series in the world.
What other characters would you have been okay with race swapping, and why is that? Why are those characters okay, but not Snape? What? I don't even think, like, we just saw what happened with the Percy Jackson show. Like, it was very successful. And Percy Jackson fans did not care that they race swapped two characters, actually, right? Because Annabeth was white. And was Grover not black in the comics? I know they made him black in the Logan Lerman movie. But I feel like as a kid, I always envisioned him to be black. Did they describe him as black in the books? I don't actually know. I don't remember exactly. But either way, they race swapped Annabeth at least. And then they made Grover an Indian kid. And the fans literally did not give a shit. Because they were like, oh, this is just like a good show that we enjoy as Percy Jackson fans. Nobody cared. Literally nobody gave even a single shit.
One of the highest grossing movie series in the world needs to virtue signal to bring in the mythical modern audience. Well, I hate to break this to one of America's dumbest corporations, Warner Brothers, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's call it what it is. This diversity hand-me-down is going to cost you a large portion of the audience that you paid to have access to. And don't even get me started on the issues this is going to create thematically, including but not limited to Sirius Black and James Potter being racist. I guess they won't be remaking that scene where James Potter hangs a black snake by his trousers under a tree. And just to hammer this home, because I don't think Warner Brothers are... Sirius Black and cost you a large portion of the audience that you paid to have access to. And don't even get me started on the issues this is going to create thematically, including but not limited to Sirius Black and James Potter being racist. I guess they won't be remaking that scene where James...
I mean, it would be very funny if a guy called Sirius Black was racist. I mean, to be fair, maybe they just bullied Snape because his vibes were off, or maybe they make it a racial thing. I don't know. Okay, you know what's also like so funny about this? They, like, I know for like Lord of the Rings, right? Whenever I see people talking about Rings of Power, they always bring up the whole thing of like, you're disrespecting the source material and you're pissing and shitting and coming all over J.R.R. what is it, Tolkien? What's his name? Timmy Tolkien? Whatever. You're pissing and shitting and coming all over Tolkien's tomb. You're going onto his grave, zipping down your pants, and just a turret of piss all over his gravestone. This isn't what he would have wanted. You're disrespecting it, yada, yada, yada. When we actually have, like, the people that made the bitch, right? Like, the lady that made and wrote Harry Potter is helping develop this series. Just to be clear, like, Harry Potter, or J.K. Rowling has a vice grip on the Harry Potter rights. Nothing is happening in this show without her approval. When we have, in the case of Percy Jackson, right? Like, Rick Riordan, he's very heavily involved in the Disney show. He okayed the castings and all of that. It's like in a situation where the person that created the thing is developing it. Like, I like how that argument, it just goes away. That whole thing goes away. You use it when it's convenient, right? When the creator is dead and can't have an opinion. But when the creator is alive and giving the okay to everything, now we don't care about the right of the guy, or the right of the person that created the thing being able to give their say on the adaptation. Now we don't care about the memory of the creator. We don't care about what the creator would have wanted. We don't now, because now in this case they want something that we don't.
Potter being racist. I guess they won't be remaking that scene where James Potter hangs a black snake by his trousers under a tree and just to hammer
That'd be
his home, it's like,
hilarious. Do it. Do it, J.K. Rowling, you cowards.
I think Warner Brothers or anybody else in Hollywood is listening. Identity doesn't put butts in the seats. Authentic storytelling does. And it's one thing to make Snape a black dude, and it's another thing to make him a GQ model, and I'd be saying the same thing about a white guy. But what about makeup? Well, what about it? Using the identity politics mindset, you just put a hook-nosed ugly guy out of work. Only hook-nosed ugly people should play hook-nosed ugly people. On that note, some of you might correctly point out that Colin Farrell did indeed steal ugly people work for Penguin. Fair enough. Let's take Papa Essie out and put some white makeup on him, give him a hook nose and a straight black hair wig, and let's see what happens. It's just crazy enough to work. But in all seriousness, since HBO already set the precedence of hiring an American actor with John Lithgow as Dumbledore, which is good casting, then why not go with the smart and on the very large nose casting of Adam Driver? And finally, this brings us to the it doesn't matter.
Oh, is that true? Based? Listen, I keep on seeing all of these people saying that only British people can play James Bond. I say bullshit, okay? You British people and Australian people, you keep on taking all of our classic iconic characters, okay? Henry Cavill is Superman? Superman? The guy who fights for truth, justice, and the American way? Henry Cavill? James Gunn, may the Lord bless you, okay? For getting, what's his face? The guy, David Corden Sweat, okay? He even has corn in his name. That's American. Robert Pattinson as Batman? How dare you? How dare you, Matt Reeves? Isn't Matt Reeves British himself? No, he's American. I've heard him talk. Chris Hemsworth as Thor? I don't care if he's Nordic. We're claiming him. Oh, yeah. Tom Holland is Spider-Man? We need to fight back, okay? Americans, we must not take this lying down. We must invade the UK, whatever few roles UK people have. We must invade their IP, okay? Wallace and Gromit got to get voice acted by an American.
Argument. This is just a fictional character. All right, if it doesn't matter, let's go all the way. Give that 42-year-old dude who tried out for Hermione the gig. Hell, give it to Jason Isaacs. He's expressed interest. I hope you to come back as Hermione. I sent no audition tape in. I've yet to hear. Why don't we make John Lithgow a trans Dumbledore because he played a trans character in World According to Garp, which might have had something to do with his casting.
What? What are we even talking about?
No. Yes. But on the other hand, if it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, if somebody wanted to make, like, a wacky version of Harry Potter that had, like, trans characters or whatever and gender and age swapped versions of certain characters, yeah, I wouldn't care. If they have an interesting story to tell, go ahead. You know? When people are like, oh, Black Panther, white Black Panther, make Black Panther white. Sure. I don't care. maybe you want to tell a story about a white Black Panther that maybe like the black Wakandans, they don't want to accept him because he's as their king because he's white and he has to fight for their approval. There's some interesting stories to tell with that. Go ahead. I don't care. I don't care. You also don't care.
Then just keep Snape white.
Nerdrotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, thank you for listening this long.
All right, well, that was terrible. I mean, there really are no good arguments to, like, let's just be real. There are no good arguments against race swaps. Unless it's disingenuously done, right? Unless it's, like, done because of corporate reasons. But, like, we don't have any way to know if that is the case or not. So all we can do at the end of the day is just wait and see if the show is good. And judge it based off of that. That's all we can do. But no, we will be performatively outraged by everything because that just is what it is on the internet. But either way, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.